Week 14 on the main slate features a lot of projected low-scoring games. But two games, Seattle at San Francisco and Buffalo at Kansas City, stand out with high over-unders. We'll do our best to exploit these two games as we build Week 14 cash lineups on the main slate for FanDuel and DraftKings, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants. Eric, another week in the books and another DFS Hub competition to comment on. This one's a little bit special. I'm going to bring up the results and see if others can see why it's so special. Look at that. I mean, you got to call out Terry Love with, the guy at the top snuck in there. He must have cheated, scored something different. Congratulations, Eric. Nice solid win there. Not just a win, but a solid win.
Thank you. I was going to comment about your snuck in. 6 points isn't a sneak. No, basically, the core of the guys that we talked about, I used in this GPP lineup, which was White, Moss, and Tyreek Hill, 2 for 3. Moss didn't do much. And then I supplemented Hill going back with Sam Howell, who expected a shootout game. I didn't expect Howell to run the ball in twice. That was great. McBride was huge at tight end. And even Elijah Moore at a really cheap price was good, as was Michael Pittman.
Yeah, nice result. And Eric, what you got? You got something new on. I'm so not used to seeing you dressed like that. What's going on?
Oh, I didn't realize this was. Looking how sharp you're dressed. I didn't know it was professional attire. As for our professional attire, is Fantasy Football Consultants. You guys should know if you're looking at the video. If you're looking at it on your cell phone, go into the description. You'll see our store. If you're looking at it on your computer, it should be right under the video. Our store. I want to remind everybody, when we set up our merchandise, we had two things in mind. Michael reminded me of this when I put it together. We were only going to pick the highest quality that the store had, and two, we would take absolutely no profit. So we don't get anything out of any of our sales because we wanted to make sure the prices were reasonable. So you've seen us do our normal polo t-shirts. I've worn the hoodie before. Now I just am doing one of my favorites, Michael, when it's cold, to be able to walk around the house in the long sleeve t-shirt is pretty cool, or warm. I don't know how that goes. Anyway, the bottom line is check out the store. Tell your family you want it on your Christmas list this year. And I'm going to remind everybody, if you want to support our channel, please always remember to like the video, share your comments about the main slate in the comment section, hit the red subscribe button, followed by the bell icon to be notified of when we post our videos. Michael, it's a little bit sad. I can't believe we're already up to week 15. We made we didn't miss any weeks. We will be back week 16 next week. But what happens after that?
Well, then it's teams start to punt on how they perform a little bit. So fantasy playoffs are going on, and it goes from there.
Yeah, and we're taking a vacation from doing this NFL DFS shows. But the good news is we will be back for the playoffs. We will be back for the NFL playoffs. But don't get concerned. We'll be back next week, and we'll say our holiday wishes. Shall we get, by the way, did we give a shout out to who finished second and third real quick? Don't want to just overshadow them with.
Yeah, we put it up there, but I'll say the names. So Eric, in addition to yourself, it's Patrick Bloomer and Antonio McGriff who got third. We did have a couple of people who just missed out. So honorable mention to David Steele and Terry Love.
Really been impressed by this community, not only in the contest, but you're providing your feedback. I love alternate views. I really do, in the comment section. If you have a different take than us, share it. Of course, explain your reasons why. All right, let's talk about this week. As we do on this channel, we prepare both a FanDuel and a DraftKings cash lineup. And if there's a player we like on both platforms, we call them core players. This week, there are 4, Michael, and I will begin. Last week, we picked the best wide receiver in the land, Tyreek Hill, because he was in a tremendous matchup placing the Commanders secondary. Well, this week, we're going to pick the best running back in the land, Christian McCaffrey, in a fantastic matchup. He is $9,200 on DraftKings and $10,500 on FanDuel. So he is not cheap. But Mr. All-World is worth it. In a week where we have a lot of low-scoring games, he is a home favorite, massive 12.5-point favorites, 29 implied total against my Seattle Seahawks, who didn't do a good job of stopping anything from Dallas this past week. You know the story with McCaffrey. Gets a ton of touches, 20 plus each week, heavy in the passing game, the goal line back. Just 2 weeks ago, he torched Seattle, and I live in the Bay Area. Weather's going to be great. I see no reason not to run with McCaffrey.
Yeah, no, I mean, really nobody better right now for floor upside, floor really high, upside fantastic. It's just like Tyreek Hill, maybe even a little bit better if that's a possibility. And so, yeah, get him in there. But guess what? That means that we can't spend a whole lot of money on every position. And we're going to continue to pick on this game. I think that DK Metcalf's going to get a little bit of extra coverage this week after he got all those yards in that Dallas Cowboy game and the 3 touchdowns. And so we think that we got a nice little bargain with Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's 5,500 on FanDuel and 4,100 on DraftKings. So that same game, he's been very, very consistent over his last games. He's averaged 4.5 catches, 50 yards a game. And so, after a really poor start, he's getting used more consistently. And I think he will be benefited from DK Metcalf getting so much attention this last week. San Francisco, they haven't been as strong as the past, partly because a lot of teams are coming back against them. And that's what we're going to see again this week, I'm pretty sure. And Jackson Smith-Njigba has got the talent, of a DK Metcalf. And so is he going to get 3 touchdowns and 150 yards? Probably not, but a nice floor at this price tag.
Yeah, it doesn't need to with this price tag. As a big Seahawk fan, I've watched Jackson Smith-Njigba, but let's keep in mind he was a first-round draft pick for the Seattle Seahawks, and I can see why. He's such a great route runner, and as Tyler Lockett, I think, has faded a little bit down the stretch here, I think he's quietly becoming effectively the number 2 wide receiver on this team. The third common player is actually a defense. It's the Cleveland Browns. Now, we all know, we've talked about it in previous shows, they're one of the best defenses in all of the NFL. Behind Myles Garrett, they have almost 3 sacks a game. But the real, and it's a good environment, home favorite by 1.5 points. But the crown jewel is that Trevor Lawrence was healthy when they set this $3,000 salary on DraftKings and $3,800 salary on FanDuel. He's not. He's almost assuredly not going to play this game. Who will? C.J. Beathard. I think there's a huge difference between Beathard and Lawrence. So I know we like to go super cheap a lot because of the volatility on defense, but I think it's worth it to spend a little bit more than the cheapest defense to get Cleveland this week.
Yeah, again, really taking advantage of that quarterback change. Beathard's really not done a whole lot in his backup career. And actually going into start, I think you could see Cleveland take advantage of it even more than Cincinnati was able to do towards the end of that Monday night game. Again, trying to stay cheap and find someone who has a nice floor. At the tight end position, we're going to go with Cole Kmet in the Chicago Bear game. They are playing at home against Detroit. Detroit is the 31st ranked defense against tight ends. He is 5,600 on FanDuel and 4,300 on DraftKings. kind of real similar story to what we said about Smith and Jigba. Just consistent. In fact, even more receptions a game, similar yards per game because he gets a lot of real quick dump offs. And that's become even more consistent of a theme with him. He's kind of become the security blanket for Justin Fields. And so he has a nice floor. Needs to get in the end zone. He's got in the end zone a couple times this season. I want to say the same about Smith and Jigba. Let's get him in the end zone this week as well, so that we have some upside to go with these really nice floors.
All right, those are the 4 common players. We'll do DraftKings in a moment, but first, let's go to FanDuel and finish our cash lineup. All right, on FanDuel, mostly because of Christian McCaffrey, we have a little under $7,000 per player, so we got to be a little cost conscious, but there are opportunities. Let's start with our other running back, who we're going to pair Christian McCaffrey with. And at $6,800 on FanDuel, it's Zach Moss. Now, we were really big on Moss last week. He was only $5,600 as a surprise new starter coming from the injured Jonathan Taylor. And one of the reasons we liked Moss so much is that we expected him to have a lot of volume. And if you look at last week, he had 19 of the 20 running back carries. The problem was he didn't do a whole lot with it. But as you were pointing out earlier in the earlier screen, he gets a much better landing spot here facing the Cincinnati Bengals, dead last defense so far this year and not so great against the run or pass, something that Moss can do both of. I know his price went up from $5,600 to $6,800, but I still think he's worth it. So we will line him up along with McCaffrey. And you know what? I'm going to go at quarterback. And I know that I have the money based on the order that we did it. And we're going to spend up at quarterback. It's amazing to me Michael, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've talked about, hey, why not sneak Brock Purdy in the lineup? He's got a lot of weapons. He's really cheap. the word got out. Brock Purdy isn't cheap anymore at $8,100. So I'll save money on Brock Purdy and let's get Lamar Jackson in the lineup. Man, oh man. Again, very low scoring games this week, but we get a home favorite, 7.5 points, 24 implied total to get the dual threat in Lamar Jackson. Now, I want to completely acknowledge that the loss of Mark Andrews certainly hurts Jackson's ceiling, but still at $8,000 and his dual threat, let's look what he continues to do on the ground. I'm happy to get Jackson in the lineup.
Yeah, I like both those picks. I think Zach Moss brings a lot of upside, especially going up against that Cincinnati defense. He's going to be kind of the focal point of that offense. And this Rams Baltimore game could be, high scoring. The Rams offense has looked really good. So I think they're going to be in this game, which means Lamar Jackson's going to have to do what it takes, including using his legs. And when he does that, especially if he can find his way into the end zone, he has some upside in addition to that nice floor.
All right. So, Michael, to fill out our wide receivers, I think it's important. I'm a healthy guy. You know that. I'm pretty healthy. I eat healthy. The one thing I like to eat is brown rice. And on that theme, let's get Noah Brown and Rashid Rice in our lineup. We'll start at $6,000 for Noah Brown. So you will, if you look at his game log, you'll see, let's see, he was doing okay. Then he missed a bunch of games with an injury. What I love is he has a week under his belt. He came back last week and he comes back to a much better situation. Why? Unfortunately for Houston, star rookie Tank Dell is out. So Noah Brown moves from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 2. And on top of that, they face the New York Jets and Sauce Gardner. Guess who Sauce Gardner is going to shadow? He will shadow Nico Collins. So happy to get Brown in the lineup for a mere $6,000 price. And Rashid Rice, once again, attacking another high-scoring game with the Kansas City Chiefs. All indications are, I know they have Travis Kelce, who, by the way, has been very frustrating as a as a fantasy owner of his, not quite as doing quite as well as I expected. But the best wide receiver on this team, the number one wide receiver, certainly looks like it's Rashid Rice. It's not Kadarius Toney. It is not Justin Watson, and it's not Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So it's not Sky Moore. So it's Rashid Rice. Let's continue to build upon that. High over under of 47.5 against Buffalo. Small spread, 2.5 points. All the indication that this should be a shootout. Happy to get my version of Brown Rice in our lineup.
There you go. Yeah. I really like both these picks, but yeah, especially just Noah Brown. I mean, look at just the star power he has. Really should take advantage of the fact that Sauce Gardner will be on the other side, and unfortunately Nathaniel Tickdale's injury. So yeah, both good picks at really reasonable prices. So I guess that leaves you a little bit of money for the flex spot.
7,500, and I'm very excited to get this guy in our lineup. Let's welcome Austin Ekeler into our lineup. Now, just take a look at the game log, or if it scares you, you might want to close your eyes. The last 3 weeks, Austin Ekeler has been absolutely awful. Let's be clear about it. The Charger offense is sputtered. Last week, they really knew New England couldn't score, so they were ultra conservative. But that's not going to be the case this week. They are home. They are favored by 3 points. Given the slate, a reasonable implied total of 23.5. Now, I know the Denver Bronco defense has improved later into the year, but statistically, they're still very poor, right? They're the dead last against the run, second to last overall. Austin Ekeler provides this dual threat of rushing and passing. The Chargers need to win this game, desperately need to win this game to make the playoffs. I can't believe they won't lean on Ekeler.
Yeah, and actually, to me, this has been the biggest head scratcher. Didn't mean to do that at the same time I said it, of this season, is how they have not used him. He must not have been right physically. That might be a big part of it. But I think some of it's just been play calling. He's such a weapon, such a versatile tool. You got to use him. Some say he's basically Christian McCaffrey on a different team. And I think in a lot of ways he does have the same tools. And so let's hope that starts to happen for them for the rest of the season. But love this matchup. I think he'll be able to take advantage of it. So I like this lineup, Eric. It's looking good.
All right. So let's change gears and move over to DraftKings.
Okay, Eric, here we are in our DraftKings lineup with our core four, as we call them. We've got 29,400 remaining, so a little less than 6,000 a player. So we're going to try and get at least one more horse in there that can have some real upside, and that is going to start right away. We're going to stick with the Seattle-San Francisco game and continue with Deebo Samuel at $6,800. This guy has so much upside when he's healthy, and he has been healthy of late. And so, I mean, really has a nice floor. And just look at the upside. I mean, even when he only gets 3 receptions, he still gets 60 yards of catching. I think he may be the best in the NFL with yards after the catch. When he's healthy. Of course, there's been times when he hasn't been, and that's the big challenge with him because they use him so much in the running game as well, and even as a blocker. He's just a stud. He's, they call him thunder thighs there, right? He's just got these legs of a running back playing the wide receiver position, and when he goes off, he scores you 38.8 fantasy points like he did this last week. So Seattle's going to do their best to stay in this game, and they have to do that offensively, like we saw in that Dallas game. I think, really bummer for Seahawks fans to see how that game ended. I think the Seahawks are going to continue to go that offensive route, and Deebo Samuel is going to be the biggest beneficiary of it. The next guy I want to talk about, we'll go with your Brown theme, but we're going to go with the Brown. You already talked about him a little bit when you talked about results from last week. It's Elijah Moore, who is really benefiting significantly from the Joe Flacco move. I think he fits Joe Flacco's style, and it helps that Amari Cooper's been injured. In fact, I think it looks like Amari Cooper's not going to play yet again this week, or he came in this last week, but he was only in there for a short period of time. So Elijah Moore is, I think, the biggest beneficiary of that. You might think Njoku, but with Flacco at the helm, look at the target, 12 targets this last week. And it wasn't, it wasn't just because he was dropping the ball, which you might see with other players, that some of those weren't connections. So at this price tag, $4,500 allows us to do other things throughout the lineup. I really like this Elijah Moore pick. So what do you think of these two?
Yeah, I think Deebo Samuel may have broken a record. 7 touches, 38.5, 38.8 DraftKings point. Pretty amazing. But in all seriousness, I do like them. I do think they once again, we are attacking high-scoring games. So I really like getting that exposure to that San Francisco offense. They have the highest implied total of anybody on the slate, and I like Moore as well.
So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the quarterback position and the running back position and take advantage of this Cincinnati is all of a sudden back in the playoff hunt conversation. So let's start at the running back position with Joe Mixon. So, Mixon, I think, has been a disappointment to fantasy owners thus far this season, kind of similar to the Eckler conversation. But we saw how he's being used with Jake Browning at the helm. He's getting a lot of dump offs. He had 6 receptions this last week, and he's getting in the end zone. They had a little bit of a nice tag team at the running game if you watch this game, this Monday night game. But I think that actually opened things up for Mixon a little bit. He's still the key. He got the most carries, and he also was on a lot of the key situations, including around the goal line. So I think Joe Mixon not only has a very nice floor, but at $6,100 brings some upside in a nice matchup. Indianapolis is 26th against running backs. So let's take advantage of that. And I alluded to it at the quarterback position. Jake Browning, I'm kind of surprised this kid has not been talked about a little bit more as a replacement. I think, as a coach, I always like to call out what's going on. A lot of teams, quarterbacks just don't fit because of their style of play. Their offense is geared for a certain type of quarterback. And Jake Browning is a good fit for the Bengals because he kind of has a similar style to, he's not as good, let's be fair, but he's got a very similar style to Burrow. He's accurate. He gets rid of the ball pretty quickly. He knows how to use, he's willing to push the ball when needed, right? So they started that game kind of slow, let him do a lot of dump offs, use the running game a little bit. Part of that was how Jacksonville's defense has been set up. But then Jacksonville adjusted, and so did Jake Browning. He's a very accurate thrower. I was really impressed with him. Going up against Indianapolis, which is a little bit weaker against the run, but one of the worst defenses in the league. He may have to go back to the dump off a little bit, but he's going to be important in this game. I don't think he's going to repeat what he did last week, but I think he has a really nice floor at $5,200.
I think these two guys are going to help each other, right? I think that Mixon actually will be benefited by having Jake Browning as his quarterback. They may run the ball a little bit more, but more importantly, I think Mixon is going to see dump off passes. And here on DraftKings with a full PPR, that is so valuable. I did want to mention a couple of real quick things at the wide receiver level. Possible pivots that you might want to consider if you're looking for savings at only $3,500. I'm really surprised Jonathan Mingo is this cheap. This guy is a rookie. And I think the key to remember is that they've gotten a head coaching change. Frank Reich was fired. I have no idea why. The Panthers only have one win, maybe had something to do with it. But and so in the last two games, Jonathan Mingo has been their number one wide receiver. He's out targeted Adam Thielen 16-9. So we could be seeing a little bit changing of the guard. It doesn't have to have a full changing of the guard. Just if you can be 50-50 with Thielen, he's always going to get the, not the shutdown corner. The shutdown corner would go to Thielen. The Panthers don't have a lot to play for at this point. Why not see what the rookie can do? So I like this at 3,500. I want to get your take, but before, I'll just mention you have Elijah Moore. The other Moore that, if you want more, you can get DJ Moore. He's much more expensive though at 6,500. I just like him that he is facing a Detroit defense that is no bueno, and a Detroit offense that is good. So maybe you have an opportunity. It is in Chicago, so not as friendly as being in the dome. But I think the guy that benefits more than anyone on the team for Justin Fields back at quarterback is DJ Moore. So just something to consider. Any comments on either of those pivots?
No, I agree with what you're saying on Mingo. I think that's the route they should go. And we'll see if he doesn't get bracketed by Lattimore. But we could afford to put DJ Moore in our lineup, but there's a guy I like a little bit better since we have $6,800 available to us. It's at the flex spot. It's Isaiah Pacheco for the Kansas City Chiefs going up against that Buffalo Bills defense. McKinnon seems to be like he's likely to be out this week, and Pacheco has just gotten the majority of the touches for this team, not just in the running position, but at the passing spot as well. Not quite the same as Debo in terms of ability to get yards after the catch, but this kid, I tell you, he packs a punch. He feels a lot like Eckler to me, and we've seen the Chiefs towards the end of the season, they really start to rely on their running backs a lot more, especially in the pass game, and I think that Pacheco is going to have maybe not quite what he had against these last 2 weeks, but a very similar week this week.
I love this pick. So just to be clear, I definitely think Pacheco's the route you should go in the flex over DJ Moore. You see here, and you see, at times good participation in the passing game, but really in the last 2 weeks. And that corresponds with Jerick McKinnon being out. And with the expectation of McKinnon be out again, full PPR on DraftKings. And again, love attacking these two games. So getting a Kansas City Chief in your lineup, I think, is so important. And I'm glad you did it.
So that's our DraftKings lineup to marry up with our FanDuel lineup. A lot of similarities, a lot of similar themes. Like the floor here and even the upside with some of our star talent.
Yeah, I do like this cash lineup, but I want to comment about GPP. There is some player I'm just a little nervous to include him because I don't know if he has as high a floor. But for DraftKings at tight end, and Michael, I will put at tight end in quotes. Let's see, where is he at 5,400? Taysom Hill. I'm not against starting him at in cash, but I really like him for GPP. especially in this game. At only $5,400 as tight end, you get a guy that, as long as the New Orleans is inside the 5, will likely become the quarterback, and he's going to run the ball. And there's a very high likelihood that he's going to get a rushing touchdown. And this is a great game. They're at home. They face the worst team record-wise in the entire NFL. What are your thoughts on this, Michael?
Well, yeah, my fellow alum, Taysom Hill out of BYU, the Swiss Army knife, as they call him, he is actually, I think he's a crucial part of this team. They're playoff, all of a sudden looking like a playoff. Well, I guess all of a sudden nothing. They're in that division that's pretty weak. They need to win, and that is Taysom Hill's a huge part of their ability to win. So I think we're going to see him used even more. Maybe not 13 carries again, but it is a neat 13 carries when most of them are around the goal line. Really like the upside that he brings.
Yeah, and in full PPR, he's going to get it. He's going to still get you a couple of receptions, but the play here is the fact that you get a running quarterback at the tight end spot is what's great. And he's facing a below average rush defense. But as I said earlier, we want to hear from you guys. So let us know what your thoughts are. Who do you like that we picked, and who did we not suggest that you think would be a great pick for any cash lineup? All right, everybody. I want everyone to take care, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
We'll put up 2 videos we think that you'll enjoy.